So anyway, so tonight's speaker is Chief Mark Mayberry. He is the Chief of Northwest Regional Police Department, and he's going to be talking about reportable and non-reportable accidents. Mark's been Chief at Northwest Regional for 8 years. I just had to ask him because I couldn't remember. Well respected by the community and by our officers and by the commission. So please welcome Mark.
All right, thank you. Thanks for having me. So when I was asked to come to this Rotary and speak, I had not a clue what I was going to talk about. So I was sitting in a township meeting, actually it was a Mount Joy Township meeting, and the big discussion was a new development going in. And when everybody talks about development, I assume everybody's pretty much lived in this community, Elizabethtown, Mount Joy Township, West Iowa, Kenoi, somewhere in there. The big talk of any kind of development is traffic. Where's traffic going to go? All these units are going to go in. There's no improvements to the roadway, so where's all the traffic going to go? So I thought, well, let's talk about crashes and we'll talk about volume of traffic. So as you know, Elizabethtown is a growing community. I started down here in 1990, kind of dating myself. So when I started down here, if anybody's lived down here for a long time, it was like one red light in Etown borough, and it went on flash at midnight or something like that. So as you can see from the community now, that we have a lot of traffic signals in the borough in West Iowa Township and Mount Joy Township. So with the growth of the developments that have came into our area, we also have apartment complexes, the industrial park. I don't know, has anybody noticed any Amazon vans that drive through the town? So all that traffic has, pretty much impacted the borough and municipalities, So we get let's talk about accidents, and everybody has either been in an accident or witnessed an accident or been stuck in traffic because of an accident. And, we get an accident, the borough, I'm sure they get gridlock, but we get an accident out in the township, it causes major traffic concerns. I mean, one crash on 283, and we shut that highway down, it's a nightmare, because we know that we're going to get multiple crashes just because of that highway being shut down, because people aren't paying attention, people are going too fast, they're on their cell phones, whatever the case may be, and next thing you know, they come up on traffic, and another accident happens, and another accident happens. So it is quite a concern. So the two types of accidents that we pretty much deal with, or what we deal with, is a non-reportable crash and a reportable crash. So let's talk about a non-reportable crash. Is pretty simple. It is an accident where you don't have any injuries and the vehicles can be driven from the scene under their own power. That's pretty much an exchange of information. We will come out and we will handle those accidents. We will do an exchange of information sheet for boat drivers to make sure that they have the appropriate information, and then they can report that to your insurance company. We will do an incident report, but we don't do an accident report. It's not an accident report that has to get reported to the Department of Transportation. So a non-reportable crash, some police departments, very busy police departments, they won't even come out. I don't speak for the state police. They won't even respond to a non-reportable crash. But locally, we will respond. If you exchange information, we'll at least look and make sure that you got the appropriate information. Because sometimes you get a non-reportable crash and the two boat drivers exchange information and they think they did the right thing, and then they found out that the person they were involved in a crash gave them bad information, or they don't have insurance, and then they're calling us, and then we got to kind of like track everything down. So if you do get in an accident, non-reportable crash, you exchange information, but you want to verify to make sure that that person actually gave you good information, the police department will come out and take a look at that and make sure that you have the appropriate information. So a non-reportable crash, pretty simple. That's one, simple rear end accident, and you strike a deer or a deer hits you, and your vehicles can be driven from the scene, there's no injuries, that's a non-reportable. Pretty simple for us. A reportable crash is a little bit more serious. A reportable crash, the vehicle can't be driven from the scene, or there's accident or injuries involved from the crash. So they're the kind of accidents that we come out to. We respond to quite a few of those. And again, like I said, we have to tow the vehicle, or the vehicle has to be towed, or there's injuries resulting in somebody, even a complaint of pain. If you say, hey, my neck hurts, but I'll be okay. You don't want to go to the doctor, you don't want an ambulance to respond, we'll still probably do a reportable crash. What that means for us, we still do the accident exchange form. Both drivers get a copy of the accident exchange form, but we have to do a reportable accident that has to be reported to the Department of Transportation. All that is we just got to come back and do an accident report that goes to the Department of Transportation. So we're pretty simple. We have software in our car, a computer program called the Tracks that we just got this year, that the officers can pretty much sit in their car and do that crash report while they're on the scene. Make sure that you have the proper information. It's a computer printout, which is nice because, in case you didn't know this, we don't write so good. Like if we give you a handwritten exchange form, you're probably going to struggle to read it. So it's kind of nice that we can print this out and give it a copy to you. Not to say it couldn't have a mistake, but you can at least read it. It'll be legible because some of our officers write pretty bad. Just ask Judge Miller, Judge Miller. Okay, so if you have fatal accidents, so unfortunately we get a few fatal accidents. Believe it or not, the borough gets them. The people don't drive as fast in the borough, but people, we get a pedestrian accident or two vehicles, a bicycle accident, and fatal accidents do occur, unfortunately. What we have is the ability to call out what they call a crash team, a Northwest crash team. And a Northwest crash team is officers from the area police departments in the Northwest, which is Northwest Regional Police Department, Elizabethtown Borough, Susquehanna Regional, Mountjoy Borough, and Manheim Borough Police Department. So there's officers from each one of those police departments that are part of the crash team. And these officers are trained more in depth on accident investigation. Reconstructionists, they're specialized in interviews. They might be specialized in crime scene processing or accident scene processing. Drone pilots, they'll bring a drone and fly the scene. So these guys got a lot more crash investigative schooling that they go to. So it's a very good resource for the officers to have when we get an accident that involves a fatal or serious injuries that could lead to possibly a fatal accident. We have the ability to call out that crash team to come out. And there's actually Detective Greg Wall. He's from West Island Township, retired from Northwest Regional. He's with the county detectives, and he's a great asset because he is a very well-trained accident investigator. So our agency currently has 6 guys that are part of the crash team. When I say that, some of them guys could be just, they're mixed at, they're motor carrier safety inspectors. So if you get an accident involved in a commercial motor vehicle, they will come out and do maybe an inspection later on. So they're part of the crash team, but they might not be the guys who are going to respond if we get a serious crash on one of our roadways. But we do have guys that come out and investigate it. Unfortunately, we do get a lot of crashes, and I did kind of pull some crash data for you. So reportable crashes, like I said, accidents where the vehicle's got to be towed or we have injuries in the last 5 years. And these numbers kind of can't stay consistent when I ran them. 2015, we had 216 reportable crashes. I'm sorry, was that 16? 15 is 216, 2016, 227, 2017, 215, 2018, 217, and 2019, 219 crashes. That's a lot of reportable crashes, I think. This year, I think our numbers are going to be down a little bit, only because we had kind of a mild winter. We didn't really, we get some ice on the roadway, or believe it or not, people don't drive so good in inclement weather. I know you find that hard to believe, but you get a little moisture on the roadway, or you get some snow or ice, it can be bad. But with the winter being kind of mild, and then COVID, people didn't work, people weren't working, or people are staying at home, so they're not on the roadway. So I think our crash numbers will be down. I know initially, like say April, we might have had like 4 reportable crashes this year in April, and I ran the numbers last year, we had like 24. So I think our numbers will be down, but they're starting to pick back up, believe it or not. So I think what we see as these crashes is just the volume of traffic, and I think that, you know, people don't pay attention. You know, people think, like, if we get a snowstorm, they're calling for it, like, what's today, Monday? So if they're calling for a big snowstorm come Friday, and believe it or not, sometimes the weather guys are right. I don't have a lot of faith. There's no weather guys in here, or weather people. So I have a lot of faith in them. But if it's one of them storms that they're like, oh, we're going to get a big one come Thursday, and then, you know, well, we're not talking about that. Schools are closed and people are staying home, and we do get one of them significant snowfalls. People think, oh, were you really busy with crashes? And we weren't. We weren't busy with crashes because everybody was prepared. Everybody stayed home. Everybody went to Giant, got their milk and bread and eggs, or whatever they get, and they wipe it out. You can find the stuff now. So everybody stays at home. We don't really get that many crashes. We get a lot of crashes when we get that sudden weather system comes through where it's cold, and say we just get just a dusting of snow, and it turns all the roadways to ice, and everybody's gone, and schools are letting out, and they didn't let out early enough. That's when we get a lot of crashes. That's when we could be running from accident to accident to accident, just dealing with it. It's not the big snowstorms that you would think we would get. We get those accidents because people don't use their head, like they gotta run to Turkey Hill and get their cigarettes and lottery tickets, and they end up in a snowdrift. And then you're like, what are you doing out? And they're like, oh, I have to go to Turkey Hill. I need a slushie and lottery tickets. And I'm like, okay. All right, well, you didn't use very good judgment. So that's, the crashes that we get significant crashes. And what we do is it's nice that we have the ability to go ahead and do some of them in our car. And, insurance people want to know, like, hey, how do I get a copy of the accident report? And by all means, you can come in. You have, and we actually will give them to you at the station. You fill out a right to know request, we'll give you that. You do pay a fee, but we also have the ability to go through Carfax. We sign up through Carfax, and you can go on the crash docs and we'll give you your incident number, and then you can get it through that too. And you can pay a fee, but that saves you the hassle of having to come into the station. So again, that's why we do our accident reports and reportables through the track system in our cars. We also have the track system on our desktops at the station. And then once they're submitted and approved, they get uploaded right to PennDOT, and PennDOT has all the information you need. So I'm trying to think if I covered everything I wanted to cover. I guess the bottom line is, okay, if you're involved in a crash, stay at the scene, contact the police. If you leave your vehicle at the scene because it can't be driven, or people do this, I won't say anybody in this room would do it. I know nobody in this room. But if you leave an accident scene and you leave your vehicle there, one of two things probably. You probably got warrants for your arrest, or your license is under suspension. And the tow truck company, when they come there, they're not going to be able to tow your vehicle, because if it's a reportable crash, they're going to need the police department there to do a report. So then we're going to have to track you down and find out why you left the scene of the crash. And more likely, it's because, again, your license under suspension, there's warrants for your arrest or something. Some people just don't. Some people think that, hey, I was close, so I just slid off the road. I was just going to come back and get it in the morning or whatever. But it's best to notify the police. Let us get involved. We can make arrangements to get the vehicle, especially if it's on the roadway or partially on the roadway and it's causing a traffic hazard. So it's best to let us know. I guess in closing, maybe the best thing is just pay attention out there. There's a lot of people that are driving. They're preoccupied. Everybody leaves. Everybody's in a hurry. They're looking at their phones. And I'm sure if anybody travels and you travel for any kind of amount of time, you've seen it all. People reading the newspaper, putting their makeup on, eating a bowl of cereal, yelling at their kids. We've all done it. We've all probably gotten away with some things at times, but do your best to drive defensively and watch out for the other person. So that's all I have. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Chief, if an incident happens somewhere, I don't know what municipality might be in, who do I reach out to?
If you repeat the question just for people in mind.
Okay. Well, if you call 911 and you at least tell them the roadway you're in, they can figure out what jurisdiction will have coverage in that area and send an officer out. I could be driving up into Harrisburg and I could see a crash and I don't even know which. I'll call 911 and say, hey, there's a crash on this road or something like that, and they can at least figure out what jurisdiction and have them respond.
So I'm just wondering, how do the different police departments work together? I know you've got a dog, your department, canine, right? You work with departments with canine.
Yes, with the canine, yes.
Real quick, the question is, yeah, we just have to repeat the questions because we have people online, they can't hear him.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Yeah, so the question was, how do you work with the other departments? Because we know you have a canine department and there's other ones. How do you guys work together?
Okay, so our canine is trained in drug detection and article searches and stuff like that, people searches. So if a police department asks for a canine, if a canine's working tonight, let's just say Manheim Borough has a canine and West Tenfield's requesting a canine, they'll contact Manheim Borough because their canine's working right now. But if they're not working, they'll just contact one of the canines that's available. So, or they'll contact the canine handler. The dispatch center knows all the canine handlers in the county. They'll call the first one that's available and ask them if they're available to respond to West Tenfield or whatever jurisdictions are requesting canine, and then officer will respond. Did I answer your question?
Yes.
Yeah, they're good about it. Communication through Lancaster County Radio has a network of ways of getting a hold of it, whether it's a canine, the CERT team, the crash team, whatever. There's always protocols in place to get somebody to notify and get the right person out there. Yes, sir.
Chief, non-reportable accidents, a little tap in the bumper, a little micro stuff. What would be the most critical piece of information to get from that other vehicle? You think if we're trying to give you all this information that you can unbother, VIN number or like plate number?
Yeah, the question, in case you can hear it, was what's the most critical piece of information you should get for a non-reportable accident? So a bumper, a small dent, those type of things, to make sure that the person's giving you the best information you can get. What's the most critical piece? Is it VIN or license plate?
Okay. Yeah, sometimes if you're involved in something and the person's, and if you get involved in a non-reportable crash, somebody backs into somebody else and you're like, hey, I'm really sorry, let me give you the information. And you think they're on the up and up. But if they're like, hey, you don't need to contact the police. And you're like, hey, I really want to call the police. And they're like, no. You don't need to call the police. We'll take care of this. We don't need the police involved. That's probably a clue. Your spidey senses should be like, this guy is probably doesn't want me to call. So on your cell phone, everybody that can, if you take a picture of the license plate, and maybe a picture of the vehicle, picture of the damage, if they're in a hurry to get out and exchange information with you, and they just say, hey, here's my name and phone number, here's my insurance information, then if they leave the scene, we can follow up on that. But just a picture of the license plate or anything like that, or the driver's information, the best information you can get, and then we can run that information down. That's the best, because like I said, too many times, believe it or not, some people just don't as honorable as the next. So they give you information and you find out, hey, everybody has old insurance cards. I shouldn't say that. A lot of people have old insurance cards. So they give you an old insurance card and they're like, hey, my insurance is valid. It's just an expired card. I don't have the new card. And then you find out when you go to make that claim, and you find out, hey, this guy's insurance is suspended. He hasn't insurance in 6 months. And now, you're trying to do all that backtrack. And then you find out the guy's under suspension or whatever the case may be. So, in our area, and I know Chief Cunningham said his officers will respond out and make sure that you got the right information. But if somebody's in that much of a hurry and they don't want to cooperate, or if they back into you, we've had this happen too, like somebody will crash or somebody will back into somebody and then they pull into a lot and you think you're going to exchange information and next thing you know, the guy takes off on it. Even if you could just get a picture of the license plate, that goes a long way. That will go a long way than you saying, hey, it was just a blue Toyota. Well, unfortunately, there's a lot of blue Toyotas running around. But if you can get, you have a picture of a license plate, that'll go a long way. You get a lot of information from that.
I have a question and also a comment because my insurance senses are tingling. Always get the police report because it saves a lot of trouble if you do want to place a claim. My best friend is a police officer in Lower Allen, And I'm just curious about, so you said you have the crash team force that everybody, you get departments, how does that work? Is that something you guys self-organize or?
No, she's good.
Okay, so it is broken up into, Lancaster County is broken up into different sectors. So we're the Northwest Crash Team. So it's really guys and gals that are our lady officers that are trained specifically on more serious crashes. So listen, I am not a crash guy. I think Chief Mayhem might be part of that. I am not a math guy. You better be sharp in math if you're going to figure out all these speeds and drag factors. And I don't even know, those guys can figure out all kinds of stuff. So it's officers that really have an interest in crashes. So they go to more training and get more experience, and then they become part of the crash team. It's organized through the county, through the district attorney's office. So if we have a fatal crash and we call the crash team out and we look like, somebody could be negligent, seriously negligent, and they were, maybe intoxicated or they were driving recklessly, we will work closely with the district attorney's office and assistant district attorney assigned to that if charges need to be filed. So it's just officers who have an interest in it and decide to take on more in-depth training.
Any questions online before we?
Yeah, I have a question,
Okay, go ahead.
and that is, who is responsible for speed control? The reason I ask this is that we drive down to Lancaster, if I pronounce that right, all the time. And we are the slowest moving vehicle on the road, and we are driving 5 miles an hour over the speed limit. So I have yet to see a policeman in over a year that we've been here doing anything about speed control on that highway.
Okay, well, 283 in Mountjoy Township, we have jurisdiction out there. And believe me, at times I'd like to give it back to the state police, but it's ours, and we've had it for a long time. So we do speed enforcement on 283. We have quite a bit of guys that go out there on 283 and do speed enforcement. So I can only speak for our area, but some of the other state highways, like 283, might be controlled by the state police. I know in Dauphin County, when you cross into Dauphin County from Lancaster County, it's all covered by the Pennsylvania State Police. So we do enforcement out on 283, generally through like an aggressive driving program or something like that. Enforcement way we'll go do some, but that's, you could go out there every day and write a lot of tickets for speed infractions out there. I don't know if I answered this question or not. But.
Does that answer your question, Cal?
Well, I just wonder what sort of a priority it is for them to do something about the speeding that takes place out there. Maybe it's not a problem, but it certainly is a violation that is frequent, and obviously people aren't afraid to drive 80 miles an hour on that road.
You might want to talk about using the radar versus non-radar, because we can't use radar.
Right. I mean, yeah, municipal police can't use radar, which if we were allowed to use radar, it would make our enforcement a lot easier as far as doing speed enforcement. We don't have that luxury, so we have to use either any other speed time devices that we have, which are like a VASCAR unit or a V-spec unit, basically not measures distance. We can calculate the distance and we measure how fast the vehicle is going between two distances. We also have like a wireless NRAD unit that we can set up along a roadway, and a vehicle goes through it and then it will give us a speed. But that's a little bit more cumbersome because you have to set that up. You got to run a couple of test speeds through it, and then we go out. If one person is running it, they can be away from the unit, and next thing they come back, we've had the unit ran over. We actually had the unit taken one time. Somebody was loading it up, thought it was scrap metal along the road. So it's a little bit more of a challenge for us to do speed enforcement. And, sometimes just because of the way the roadway is, I'm sure in the borough they run into it. We run into it out in townships where people complain about speeding, but the way the road is laid out, we can't get a good sight distance on doing speed enforcement. So it makes it tough. Some people will complain like, hey, we don't see you guys doing any speed enforcement on this street, but I'll say, listen, we're out on North Market Street, which connects. So if they're speeding on your road, we're catching them on North Market Street. You might not see us on the street that you live on, but we're on North Market Street or another, Mount Gretna Road. Mount Gretna Road's a good road for catching speed infractions. So it's difficult for some, if and when the legislators ever decide to pass, local police to use radar, that would be a great day, but I've been listening to that for 30 years, and I'm sure Chief Cunningham has too, and I don't see it passing anytime soon. Hopefully it will. That would make things a lot easier, make our enforcement a lot easier to do it. But, yes, sir.
Why do you think it is that it will never pass?
I don't know. I mean,
The question was, why do you think radar is not being passed?
I think some of it is they believe that, smaller municipalities will use it as revenue generator, but they'll be able to run speed enforcement a lot easier and have radar guns, and they'll just go out and write a lot of tickets to generate revenue to help offset municipal budgets or something like that. But and could that happen? I don't know. I mean, it could happen now if you want to go out and just write tickets and set up and do that. But have the use of radar, and I don't have a very great knowledge on radar. I mean, I used it when I was in the Air Force, and we had it then, but it would make things a lot easier. It's just one of those things that I don't know why. It would just, the only people that can use it in the state of Pennsylvania is Pennsylvania State Police.
Mark, you had mentioned, and you can repeat this, when people say about budgets, that you're writing tickets because we have to make budget. Can you explain how much of a ticket goes to that municipality?
I don't know the exact number, but it's, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Yeah. The question was just when you're writing tickets, people think that you're trying to generate revenue. Question was how much of those tickets actually goes back to the police or the municipality.
Right. I'm sorry. Chief might know.
We get from a $25 ticket, we get about $6.
So he said from a $25 ticket, we would get municipality get $6. Now listen, that's the thing. People, when we write somebody for speeding or something, it can be a large fine, but the fine itself is only $25. It's all these other costs that the state has associated or put on that makes it a larger point. The fine itself isn't that much, $25, or it could be a little bit higher depending on the speed and where you're at. But it's the other cost that the state has put on that generates, that makes it $100 and some or more than that. But yeah, the municipalities get a fraction of that.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
All right. Well, thank you so much. That's great information, and hopefully we all learned a little bit of something. And thinking about the speeding, I think at least Etown, we have all those divots. We've got some natural speed bumps to slow people down going through town. But thank you again, everyone, for joining us both online and in person. Just a reminder again, no meeting on Friday, no meeting on Monday. The next meeting will be Friday, December 4th. Keep an eye out in your email in the spoke for information on upcoming emails. We're obviously monitoring changes every day, what things are happening. So just keep an eye out for more information, how to join the next coming meetings. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night and a good week. Happy Thanksgiving.